Who's introing?
You.
Me. Okay. Hello everyone, welcome back to this week's Remind podcast. My name's David Masterton. I'm joined by Dr. Ashleigh Moreland, and this week we're doing top tips. And the top tip is, I'm going to have to cheat and look at the other screen, the best leadership advice you've ever received. Well, I'll be interested to see, because Ash and I haven't spoken about this yet. Are we on the same page? Is she going to steal what I'm going to say? Because with these topics, we do not share with each other what we're going to say. We just come into it fresh.
I can't wait for the day where we have the same idea.
It's going to be funny because for the listeners or the watchers or the people viewing, they're going to see both of our facial expressions as the other one's talking. So they'll probably know quicker than we do.
That was our answer.
It's all like, oh.
Yeah, maybe I need to actually think of my backup plan if you steal mine for each of these.
Well, I just say if we're on the same page, then we're on the same page.
Yeah.
After a few, like just over 100 episodes, I'm sure we're going to be a few times borrowing off each other's work. So go for it.
All right. I was actually thinking, oh my gosh, this would be so much more fun if we asked what's the worst leadership advice you ever received. And it wouldn't
I love the positive though. I'm loving the positive. Let's lean into that.
It wouldn't have been about advice I had received. It would be about the best leadership I had ever observed.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, just by observing a really great leader and going, I want to be like them when I grow up.
Well, who says advice
it wasn't like
given
someone
through
said
embodiment?
Right, exactly. So I want to be really clear about that. Is I have had many leaders. I was an academic for 12 years, so we always had heads of school. We always had deans and all this sort of stuff. So I've had many leaders, and very few, I would say, were great leaders. And of those that I would sit here and say they were a great leader, I asked myself what made them a great leader. So that's kind of how I went about answering this question.
Oh.
And the thing that I landed on was that all of the leaders I felt were the best leaders were the leaders who led themselves first.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's something that we, like in our leadership development space, we look at the 3 levels, and the first level for anyone at any level of leadership is leadership of self. Because if you can't lead yourself well, then you cannot lead others. And if you can't lead others well, you can't lead other leaders to lead others well. And so it really is this, like, you got to chip away at it. So what does that actually mean? Well, I could tell you all the things that made bad leaders, which were things like controlling everything all the time and trying to micromanage and not being emotionally intelligent and not being able to hold space and not being able to control or handle or even have awareness of their own emotions or their own reactions. So on the flip side of that, what does leading yourself well look like? Having emotional intelligence, like being able to have the self-awareness to know what's happening in your own mind, to know what's happening in your own body, to recognize your needs, to be able to communicate those needs, and really leading by example. Whereas on the flip side, like I said, it's things like control, being super reactive. Another big one was avoidance. I'm so triggered by avoidance. Avoiding hard conversations. Leaders who knew there was a problem, but avoided dealing with it because of their own stuff. Oh, I don't want to disappoint them. I don't want to let them down. I don't want them to think I'm a bad person, or
I don't want to trigger them. I don't want them to create a scene or whatever it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And their inability to lead themselves and to be able to actually recognize this is why I'm not showing up as the leader that my team needs me to be, actually meant that the team suffered, including me. I was part of the team. And yeah, so that's my answer, is leading yourself being the catalyst for how you lead others. So if you want to be a good leader of others, you need to be a good leader of yourself first.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. We're not too far away from our answers, but we're not right on it. So the best thing, hang on, I'll go back to the best leadership advice I've ever received is the greatest leaders create leaders.
So yours is about leadership of leaders.
Well, what it is, it's about not making yourself indispensable as a leader. It's not about gatekeeping information. It's not about making yourself like the leader. It puts you into, very similar to what you're saying, you become the embodiment of a leader. And at the same time, you're showing through the embodiment what and how you want the people around you to act in those situations. It's sharing, it's being inclusive, it's being united, it's bringing that as opposed to an us and them environment. And it's being goal driven, it's having the hard conversation, it's doing all those things, because if you approach leadership as creating leaders, then you are not putting yourself at the top of the tree. You can make and be in a position where you need to make those great decisions, receive the compliments, but also be able to have those hard decisions.
Yeah.
But you're doing it in a sense that you're wanting to show others that it's capable for them if they choose that they want to step into it. So it then becomes less about you as the person in charge and more about you sharing your abilities or sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience to uplift, cheerlead, and develop those around you, as opposed to needing from a, say, egoic center that you need to be above and they need to see. It's like I've heard a saying from Game of Thrones, from those who've heard it, when the young king says, "I am the king." And his grandfather says, well, those kings that need to say they are a king are no king.
Yeah.
Right? You sort of bring it. So it changes the sense of leadership from a purpose of you are the leader into service of leadership. You are serving those around you as opposed to they are working for you.
Yeah.
And that's what I sort of encompass that whole thing, that mindset, that sort of, I may have said it a couple of top tips ago, that vulnerability when it comes to partnership connection is kind of the carrot at the end of the stick. Mm-hmm. If you go to achieve that, you're achieving certain milestones along the way.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about the great leaders create great leaders.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. And yeah, we were aligned, but still quite different.
It's just like a different, like we're in the same garden, we're just sort of looking in different areas.
We're different plants. So my question to our viewers / listeners is, even if you're listening on Spotify, you can comment on episodes. So cool. And we actually read them and respond. And you can also
and
rate.
a big shout out to Amber, by the way, who's been commenting, and we've only just got back to replying. So thank you, Amber.
And did you know that you can rate our shows and rate our podcasts? So please do that. It helps the algorithm know that what we're doing is helpful. But in the comments, let us know. Maybe reflect on the leaders that you have had in your life and think about what traits made a great leader a great leader. What was the most important trait for you? And what traits made leaders terrible leaders? Think about leaders that you really struggled with and you didn't want to be led by. What about them? What did they do? How did they show up? How did they communicate? What was it about them that made them not great leaders. And this is really insightful because it helps us to understand from your perspective what your experiences have been. So let us know.
Absolutely. And we're going to be a sub 10 minute on this one. Let us know. Do you like these short tidbits? Should we keep on going with it? Do you prefer the longer form? We're just sprinkling these through as we're going through and trying different sort of, we'll say, podcast styles. So let us know. And till next week, bye-bye.
Bye.